Welcome to InfoStream, your daily current. Unsure what to listen to? Turn to us for today's headlines. Stay informed. Ukraine celebrates independence despite ongoing conflict. Israel continues offensive in Gaza. Turkey's First Lady appeals for children. North Korea tests missiles, escalating border tensions. Nigeria experiences intensified airstrikes and rising casualties. Venezuela strengthens ties with China under U.S. pressure. Japan and South Korea establish a new geopolitical alliance. Pope Leo XIV celebrates a victory regarding the Chagos Islands. Border disputes create a dilemma for the Thai government. Typhoon Kajiki causes damage in Vietnam, China, and Thailand. A bus crash in New York results in 5 fatalities. A major motorway closure occurs in Bedfordshire due to a crash. A serious A-14 crash leads to injuries and arrests. The Kilauea volcano erupts in Hawaii with intense lava activity. Trump plans to expand a crime crackdown. Protests lead to a government overhaul of asylum appeals. Ukraine marks Independence Day amidst continued conflict and diplomatic efforts. Though Ukraine celebrated its 34th Independence Day amidst ongoing conflict with Russia and a complex diplomatic landscape, President Volodymyr Zelensky reiterated Ukraine's determination to fight for a just and lasting peace, asserting that the country is not a victim, it is a fighter. The anniversary was marked by a wave of drone strikes targeting Russian territory, including a fire at the Kursk nuclear power plant, triggered by a downed Ukrainian drone. The plant reported no casualties or radiation increases, but the incident underscored the dangers of fighting near nuclear facilities, a concern repeatedly voiced by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Despite stalled peace efforts following a diplomatic push by U.S. President Donald Trump, Ukraine continued to utilize drones to target Russian infrastructure, particularly oil facilities, aiming to disrupt Moscow's war funding. Russia, meanwhile, has maintained a grinding offensive in eastern Ukraine, recently seizing 2 villages in the Donetsk region and launching attacks across the country, including a ballistic missile strike and 72 Shade drones. International support for Ukraine remains significant, with Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney visiting Kyiv to express solidarity and deliver military aid, including a $2 billion package of drones, ammunition, and armored vehicles. Other world leaders, including King Charles and Chinese President Xi Jinping, sent messages of support. The conflict has resulted in millions of displaced Ukrainians and widespread destruction. Russia controls approximately 1/5 of Ukraine, including Crimea, annexed in 2014. Despite the challenges, Ukraine's resolve to defend its sovereignty remains steadfast, and international efforts to facilitate a peaceful resolution continue, although prospects remain uncertain. The IAEA continues to urge restraint around nuclear facilities, while diplomatic channels remain open, albeit with limited progress. The ongoing conflict highlights the strategic importance of Ukraine and the significant geopolitical implications of the ongoing war. Israel's intensified offensive in Gaza and Turkey's First Lady's plea for Gaza children. Recent developments highlight escalating conflict in Gaza and growing international concern regarding civilian casualties and humanitarian conditions. Israel's military is conducting a planned offensive in Gaza City, marked by sustained aerial and ground attacks targeting areas including Zaitan, Shajaya, and Sabra, alongside renewed operations in the Jabalia refugee camp. The IDF's stated aim is to prevent Hamas from regrouping and to expand the fighting's reach. Since the commencement of Israel's campaign following the October 7th attacks, over 62,000 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 158,000 injured, with a total of 60,000 reservists now mobilized. Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed to eliminate Hamas and is demanding complete control of the Gaza Strip, despite ongoing mediation efforts involving Qatar and Egypt to secure a ceasefire and hostage release deal. The current negotiations, stalled after a failed proposal, demand a comprehensive agreement encompassing the release of all hostages. Simultaneously, Turkey's First Lady, Emin Erdogan, has issued a direct appeal to U.S. First Lady, Melania Trump, urging her to address the plight of children suffering in Gaza. Erdogan cited the increasing number of children's cemeteries in Gaza and referenced the unknown baby phrase, associated with the remains of deceased children. She emphasized the need for unified advocacy against the perceived injustice and specifically called on Trump to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu to end the humanitarian crisis. UN-backed food security experts report that 500,000 Gazans are experiencing famine, with 132,000 children threatened by malnutrition. Erdogan has a history of intervening in international conflicts, previously writing to the partners of world leaders regarding the Syrian civil war and condemning Israeli actions in Gaza. The situation remains critically unstable, with significant obstacles to a lasting resolution and continued concerns about the safety of civilians. North Korea missile tests and border incidents raise tensions, Recent events along the Korean Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, and escalating military activity highlight heightened tensions between North Korea and South Korea. North Korea recently conducted a missile test, overseen by leader Kim Jong-un, asserting the projectile's suitability for destroying aerial targets, including drones and cruise missiles. State media reported the test as part of efforts to rapidly expand the country's nuclear arsenal, citing ongoing U.S.-South Korean military exercises as a potential trigger for conflict. Simultaneously, South Korea responded to a North Korean incursion across the DMZ by firing warning shots after several North Korean soldiers briefly crossed the border. This followed North Korea's assertion that the action was a deliberate provocation designed to escalate tensions. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, who has pledged to improve relations with the North, expressed concern over the situation and vowed to restore military trust. The border incidents occurred amidst ongoing joint military exercises between the United States and South Korea, which North Korea views as rehearsals for invasion. North Korea's military has repeatedly condemned these exercises and warned of retaliation. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has called for rapid expansion of the country's nuclear capabilities due to the ongoing drills. North Korea's efforts to permanently seal the southern border have been met with resistance, with the military warning of a forceful response to any interference. The situation is further complicated by North Korea's insistence on maintaining a significant military buildup, and its continued accusations of provocations by South Korea and the United States. President Lee Jae-myung has stated his government's intention to pursue dialogue with North Korea without preconditions, while also maintaining a robust defense posture. The ongoing tensions underscore the deeply rooted divisions and historical animosity between the two Koreas and the continued risk of miscalculation or escalation. Nigeria's ongoing conflict intensified airstrikes and rising casualties, and Nigeria's security forces are confronting a complex and protracted conflict across the nation, marked by the resurgence of jihadist groups like Boko Haram and ISIS-Goape, alongside violent criminal gangs and widespread kidnapping. Recent reports highlight a significant escalation in military operations, primarily through airstrikes, aimed at disrupting jihadist activities and rescuing hostages. The Nigerian Air Force and NAF has reported killing over 35 jihadists in targeted strikes, particularly focused on dismantling bases in the northeast region bordering Cameroon. These operations are part of a broader strategy to counter the persistent threat posed by militant Islamist groups. A coalition of prominent Nigerian figures have expressed grave concerns regarding the wartime levels of slaughter occurring in certain parts of the country, despite the official declaration of peace. This concern underscores the severity of the situation. The military's claims of killing nearly 600 militants in 8 months, although lacking independent verification, demonstrates the scale of the ongoing conflict. The U.S. State Department recently approved a $346 million weapons sale to Nigeria, reflecting international support in addressing the unrest. Simultaneously, the Institute for Security Studies reports at least 15 jihadist attacks near Nigeria's borders with Cameroon and Niger. These attacks are facilitated by the use of modified commercial drones, posing a significant challenge to military reinforcements. Recent operations, particularly in Katsina State, have resulted in the rescue of 76 kidnapping victims, including women and children, following an attack on worshippers and residents. Tragically, 1 child died during the rescue efforts. Katsina and Zamfara states have been most severely impacted by bandit activity, resulting in the highest number of deaths and displacement. According to UN estimates, more than 35,000 people have been killed and 2 million displaced due to the conflict. The situation remains critically unstable, demanding sustained efforts to stabilize the region and address the root causes of the violence. The ongoing need for international assistance and a comprehensive approach are paramount to mitigating the devastating consequences of this protracted conflict. Maduro courts China amid U.S. pressure as tensions escalate between the United States and Venezuela. President Nicolas Maduro is actively seeking support from China, a strategic move highlighted by a series of events. Maduro presented a Chinese-made phone during a pedagogical congress, emphasizing the gift from Chinese leader Xi Jinping and his ongoing satellite communication with him. This gesture underscores Venezuela's efforts to diversify its international relationships and counter U.S. pressure. The Venezuelan government has celebrated increased cooperation with China, particularly in economic, scientific, and technological fields, publicly acknowledging the progress made in 2025. Ambassador Lanhu has consistently voiced support for Venezuela's position, criticizing U.S. unilateral coercive measures and aligning with Venezuela's stance against U.S. military deployments in the Caribbean. The United States, under the Trump administration, has responded with a significant military deployment, including a nuclear-powered submarine and additional reconnaissance jets, ostensibly to combat drug trafficking and address concerns about the Cartel of the Suns, allegations repeatedly denied by Maduro's government. The U.S. has even doubled the reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest and designated the Cartel of the Suns as an international terrorist organization. China's response has focused on safeguarding its interests in the region, particularly regarding access to energy resources, including the disputed Essequibo territory between Venezuela and Guyana. Chinese companies are actively involved in exploiting oil fields in Venezuela, with a planned investment of over $100 billion to increase crude production. The trade relationship between Venezuela and China is substantial, with China enjoying a significant trade surplus, exporting approximately $3.45 billion in products to Venezuela, while importing only $739 million. This economic partnership is a key factor in Maduro's strategy. Despite the U.S. military presence and ongoing accusations against Maduro, China's position is largely a politically correct statement, according to analysts. It doesn't represent a concrete intervention in the conflict, but rather a demonstration of support for Venezuela's sovereignty and a commitment to safeguarding China's economic interests in the region. The situation remains complex, with the U.S. and China vying for influence in a strategically important area of South America. Thawing relations. Japan and South Korea forge a new alliance amidst geopolitical uncertainty. A historic summit in Tokyo between South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba marked a significant shift in relations, culminating in a joint statement after 17 years, pledging cooperation on AI, trade, and denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. The summit featured a notably warmer tone, with Lee describing Ishiba as a close friend, a stark contrast to previous criticisms of South Korea's previous leadership. This shift is largely influenced by the volatile geopolitical landscape, particularly the unpredictable foreign policy of former U.S. President Donald Trump. The deteriorating U.S.-South Korea alliance, once considered a cornerstone of regional security, has become a key factor driving the renewed cooperation. Concerns about Trump's transactional diplomacy and the perceived betrayal of Ukraine have prompted both Japan and South Korea to seek a more independent approach. Ishiba's advice to Lee, stemming from his own experience managing Trump's mercurial style, suggests a strategic understanding of navigating the former president's demands. Beyond security concerns, the looming threat of conflict over Taiwan and North Korea's growing nuclear arsenal are central anxieties. Japan's cautionary tale of Ukraine today could be East Asia tomorrow highlights the potential for escalation in the region. North Korea's deepening ties with Russia, evidenced by its battlefield experience in Ukraine, further amplifies these concerns. Economically, the U.S. trade war, including tariffs on auto parts, steel and aluminum, continues to impact both economies. Managing relations with China, a major trading partner, remains a delicate balancing act. Ishiba's impending resignation, due to his party's loss of parliamentary majority, presents a potential challenge, emphasizing the need for a successor to maintain the newfound spirit of cooperation. The summit's success hinges on the ability of both nations to strategically manage their relationships with the U.S., China, and North Korea, while addressing shared economic and security challenges. The potential for conflict over Taiwan and North Korea's nuclear ambitions remain the most immediate threats to regional stability, demanding continued vigilance and diplomatic efforts. Pope Leo XIV says UK's Chagos Islands deal significant victory. Pope Leo XIV has hailed the agreement granting Mauritius sovereignty over the Chagos Islands as a significant victory for the island's displaced residents. Following a meeting with 15 Chagos refugees group members, the Pope expressed delight at the resolution, emphasizing the need to rectify a grave injustice suffered by the exiled community. The treaty, finalized in May, establishes Mauritius's control over the islands, while retaining UK and US access to the Diego Garcia military base for a 99-year period. A 24-mile buffer zone around Diego Garcia prevents construction without UK approval and restricts access to other islands. The deal stems from a 1968 purchase of the islands by the UK for $0.3 million, a move Mauritius contends was illegally forced upon them to secure independence. Prior to the agreement, large groups of Chagosians were forcibly removed to make way for the base. Following the handover, Mauritius has received an average annual payment of $101 million under the terms of the treaty. Conservative politicians have criticized the deal, describing it as an act of national self-harm and a potential security vulnerability, particularly concerning China's influence. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer defended the decision, asserting it was crucial for safeguarding UK national security and preventing foreign nations from establishing bases near the Diego Garcia facility. The treaty's implementation hinges on parliamentary approval from both the UK and Mauritian governments. The agreement represents a complex geopolitical shift, addressing a decades-old dispute and impacting international security dynamics within the Indian Ocean region. Thai government faces ICC dilemma amid border dispute, and Thailand's government is navigating a complex legal landscape following the deadly PTT petrol station strike in Sisaket, involving a Cambodian BM-21 rocket attack, and is grappling with potential war crimes charges against Cambodian leaders, specifically Prime Minister Hun Sen and his son, Prime Minister Hun Manet. Legal scholars and foreign affairs experts advise against a direct, unilateral approach to the International Criminal Court, ICC, due to potential diplomatic pressure, the risk of Thailand becoming an ICC member, and concerns about scrutiny of Section 112 of the Criminal Code. Several experts suggest pursuing legal action through regional or international mechanisms, such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, or the United Nations Security Council UNSC, rather than directly approaching the ICC. Thailand currently lacks experience in prosecuting foreign leaders at the ICC, having never ratified the Rome Statute, the treaty establishing the ICC. Preparations for a potential case are complicated by the absence of a formal declaration of war. Key concerns include the potential for Cambodia to file a counterclaim, particularly regarding the treatment of prisoners of war. The 1949 Geneva Conventions, which still apply, define acts such as armed incursions and aerial bombardments as war crimes. Cambodia is a party to the Rome Statute, raising the possibility of charges related to crimes against humanity, war crimes, crimes of aggression, and genocide. Experts recommend that Thailand propose ASEAN's current chair file the case, citing damage to the ASEAN principle of non-aggression. Failure to act could undermine Thailand's credibility and suggest reluctance to confront the issue, potentially influenced by personal relationships rather than national interest. Legal considerations highlight the need for careful assessment of whether Hun Sen and Hun Manet committed any of the Rome Statute's core crimes, particularly those against humanity. Extensive preparation, including organizing victim testimonies and witness availability, would be required. While a ruling by the ICC could order compensation and arrest, the practicalities of enforcement, particularly regarding Hun Sen's location in Cambodia, remain questionable. Ultimately, Thailand's options are limited given its current position and the potential for a protracted legal battle. Typhoon Kajiki threatens Vietnam, China, and Thailand, and Typhoon Kajiki is rapidly intensifying and poses a significant threat to Vietnam, China, and Thailand. Initial reports indicate over 586,000 people are being evacuated from coastal provinces in Vietnam, Than Ho, Quang Tri Hue, and Dine as the storm, packing winds of up to 170 kx while 110 mif, approaches for landfall early Monday. Simultaneously, China's Sanya has implemented emergency measures, including closing tourist attractions, shuttering businesses, and suspending public transport, anticipating heavy rainfall and strong winds in Hainan and surrounding provinces, potentially receiving up to 400 by minus 1.7 inches of precipitation. The Vietnamese government is treating Kajiki with serious concern, comparing its strength to a previous typhoon that caused widespread damage and loss of life less than a year prior. China's Sanya has issued a red typhoon alert, the highest level in the country's warning system, and activated its most severe emergency response, prioritizing public safety and minimizing potential casualties. Adding to the scope of the storm's impact, projections show Kajiki will weaken and move northward. By Tuesday evening, the storm is expected to reach northern Thailand's Nan province, following a trajectory through Vietnam and Laos before transitioning into a depression and ultimately a low-pressure system. The Meteorological Department forecasts heavy rainfall across the upper northeast of Thailand and the north from Sunday through Wednesday, particularly impacting provinces including Bangkhan, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Lampang, Lamphun, Loei, Mae Hong Son, Nakhon Phanom, Nan Nong Bua Lam Phu, Nong Khai Phayao Free, Sakon Nakhon, Udon Thani, and Uttaradat. The storm's influence will extend to the eastern and western sides of the south, highlighting the broad geographical reach of this developing weather event, which has already caused significant economic losses in China due to extreme weather events linked to climate change. Fatal New York bus crash claims 5 lives, and a tourist bus returning from Niagara Falls crashed on a New York motorway, resulting in the deaths of 5 individuals and leaving numerous others injured. The incident occurred approximately 40 miles, 64 km from the tourist destination, near the town of Pembroke, 30 miles of 40 km east of Buffalo. 52 passengers were aboard, primarily from India, China, and the Philippines, with ages ranging from 1 to 74. Preliminary investigations have ruled out mechanical failure and operator impairment as immediate causes. The bus, traveling eastbound, lost control, veered into the median and subsequently plunged into a ditch. Witnesses reported seeing the bus overturned with debris scattered across the roadway, including shattered windows and personal belongings. Several passengers were ejected from the vehicle, while others were trapped inside for several hours before rescue teams arrived. 24 adult patients were admitted to local hospitals and are expected to make full recoveries. Children involved in the crash were transported to a dedicated children's hospital. The investigation is ongoing, and authorities are appealing to drivers with dashcam footage to come forward. Translators and translation devices were deployed to assist in communication and the investigation process. A crisis response has been initiated with Connect Life issuing an emergency appeal for blood donations, recognizing the severity of the situation. The Red Cross has established a family reunification center to facilitate the connection of children and their parents who were taken to different hospitals. The exact cause of the crash remains under investigation, and no charges have been filed at this time. The scene was chaotic with passengers conscious and relatively unharmed, though shaken by the event. The focus remains on providing medical care and supporting the affected families during this difficult time. M1 motorway closure due to serious multi-vehicle crash in Bedfordshire. A significant disruption to travel occurred on the M1 motorway in Bedfordshire on Tuesday afternoon following a serious multi-vehicle collision. National Highways confirmed that the southbound carriageway, spanning the area between junctions 13 and 12, was immediately closed at approximately 1400 BST. The closure impacted a substantial stretch of the motorway, causing considerable delays for motorists. Emergency services responded rapidly to the scene, deploying a comprehensive response including an air ambulance. To facilitate the helicopter's operation and ensure safe patient transport, northbound traffic was temporarily halted. This strategic decision highlighted the urgency of the situation and the need to prioritize the well-being of any individuals involved. The precise details of the crash are currently under investigation, but initial reports suggest a multi-vehicle incident. Authorities are working diligently to ascertain the number of vehicles involved and the nature of the damage. While the exact cause remains unknown, it is anticipated that a thorough investigation will be conducted to determine contributing factors. Traffic management teams are actively working to manage the flow of traffic, diverting vehicles onto alternative routes. Motorists are advised to check for updates and consider using alternative routes to avoid significant delays. The ongoing closure is expected to continue for several hours as emergency services complete their work and begin the process of clearing the scene. Regular updates are being provided by National Highways via their website and social media channels. The incident underscores the potential dangers of motorway travel and the importance of adhering to speed limits and maintaining safe distances. Serious injuries and arrests following A14 crash near Naseby. A serious collision on the westbound A14 near Naseby, Northamptonshire, resulted in a woman sustaining serious injuries and the subsequent arrest of 2 individuals. The incident, which caused a 6-hour closure of the carriageway, occurred at approximately 1400 BST. A 4x4 truck veered off the road and ended up in a nearby field, marking the immediate aftermath of the crash. Initial investigations suggest the Ford Ranger was the only vehicle involved in the incident. Emergency services responded swiftly to the scene, deploying resources to secure the area and provide medical assistance to the injured woman, who is in her 30s. Paramedics treated her at the location before transporting her to hospital for further care. The precise nature of her injuries remains undisclosed. Following the crash, police initiated an investigation to determine the cause of the incident. 2 individuals, an 18-year-old man from Sutton Coldfield and an 18-year-old woman from Walsall, were taken into custody for questioning. Their involvement in the crash is currently under scrutiny, and investigators are exploring potential factors contributing to the event. The A14 was closed between junctions 1 and 2 while emergency services attended to the scene and began the process of clearing the debris. Traffic disruption was significant, impacting commuters and travelers in the region. The investigation is ongoing, and further details regarding the cause of the crash and the individual's involvement are expected to be released as they emerge. Authorities are prioritizing the woman's well-being and conducting a thorough examination of the circumstances surrounding this serious incident. Kilauea volcano eruption. Hawaii experiences intense lava activity. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano has recently experienced a significant eruption, characterized by dramatic lava fountains reaching heights of up to 100 feet. This event, captured in a video released by the United States Geological Survey (USGS), marks the 31st eruption the volcano has produced in under a year, solidifying its position as one of the world's most active volcanoes. The eruption commenced around 1404 local time 04 BST, unleashing a spectacular display of molten rock. The USGS closely monitors Kilauea's activity, utilizing sophisticated instruments to track changes in the volcano's behavior. This particular eruption did not pose an immediate threat to nearby residential areas. The USGS reports that the lava flows are currently contained within the existing volcanic hazard zone, primarily affecting undeveloped land and the volcano's established flow paths. The continuous activity of Kilauea is largely attributed to magma accumulating beneath the volcano's summit. The recent eruptions are part of a longer-term volcanic event that began in early 2021, following a period of relative quiescence. Scientists believe that the magma source is a new dike that has intruded into the volcano's crust. The USGS continues to provide regular updates on the eruption's progression, including information on lava flow rates, plume heights, and potential hazards. Public safety remains a paramount concern, and residents in affected areas are urged to heed all warnings and evacuation orders issued by local authorities. The ongoing monitoring efforts are crucial for predicting future activity and mitigating potential risks associated with this dynamic volcanic system. The eruption underscores the powerful forces at play within the Earth's crust and the importance of scientific observation in understanding and responding to volcanic events. Trump considers expanding crime crackdown to Chicago and New York. The Trump administration is exploring the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago and New York as part of its ongoing efforts to combat crime and immigration, mirroring the strategy implemented in Washington, D.C. Initially, the administration's focus was on Washington, D.C., utilizing approximately 2,000 National Guard personnel, but now seeks to extend this approach to major cities. Donald Trump has stated his intention to potentially expand the crackdown to Chicago and New York. This expansion follows the deployment of roughly 700 active-duty Marines and 4,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June, also utilizing Title 10 of the U.S. Code to address immigration protests. This move was met with immediate resistance from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who challenged its legality through a lawsuit. The administration's strategy involves leveraging the National Guard for law enforcement and immigration actions within U.S. borders, a previously uncommon practice. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has strongly opposed the potential deployment, characterizing it as unlawful and a flagrant violation of our Constitution. He fears it would exacerbate tensions and hinder the city's progress in reducing crime. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has also expressed no requests for federal assistance, prioritizing the safety of Illinois' residents. The administration's plans align with its broader immigration agenda, aiming to augment immigration and customs enforcement's capacity. Legal challenges are anticipated, echoing the situation in Los Angeles. Attorney General Pam Bondi has indicated that cities with sanctuary policies could be targets, highlighting the administration's willingness to utilize the National Guard to enforce federal law. The administration's approach is controversial, with Democratic governors and mayors pushing back against what they see as an overreach of federal power. The situation underscores a significant shift in the federal government's role in domestic law enforcement and immigration enforcement. The administration's actions are being closely monitored, and legal battles are expected as these plans move forward. The potential deployment reflects a broader strategy to utilize military resources for law enforcement and immigration enforcement within the United States. Government overhaul of asylum appeals system amidst protests. The government is implementing a significant overhaul of the asylum appeals system as part of efforts to reduce the number of asylum seekers housed in hotels. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper announced the establishment of an independent adjudicator panel to expedite appeals, aiming to address the current backlog of 51,000 cases and reduce the average appeal timeframe to just over a year. This follows a High Court ruling blocking the use of the Bell Hotel in Epping, Essex, due to planning violations necessitating relocation of residents by September 16th, with the government seeking to appeal the decision. The government's strategy is intended to streamline the process and reduce reliance on hotels. Simultaneously, widespread protests have erupted across the UK regarding the government's policy of utilizing hotels for asylum seekers. Demonstrations, often accompanied by counter-protests, have taken place in numerous locations, including Bristol, Liverpool, London, Mold, Perth, County Antrim, Exeter, Tamworth, Cannock, Nuneaton, Wakefield, Newcastle, Horley in Surrey, and Epping. These protests frequently involve anti-racism campaigners and groups opposing migration. Police have been deployed to manage the gatherings, resulting in numerous arrests, including those for assault, disorderly conduct, and breaching public order regulations. Counter-protests have been particularly prominent, with groups expressing solidarity with asylum seekers and condemning the government's approach. The Bell Hotel in Epping has been a focal point for the controversy, attracting significant attention and sustained demonstrations. Local authorities are also considering legal challenges related to the use of hotels for asylum accommodation. The situation is characterized by heightened tensions and ongoing legal disputes, with the government's appeal panel poised to play a crucial role in resolving the appeals backlog and potentially reshaping the asylum process. The government is deploying extra officers to manage the gatherings and using special powers enabling them to require people to move away from the area.